Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Some of you may remember when I made one of my first Arya Stark videos, I told you that I would make another Arya video and give you my Season 8 prediction for her fate. So in this video, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to try to keep this video very short and simple. When I was talking to Grey Area and Secrets of the Citadel last week, we briefly discussed this topic. We have plans on making a Season 7 predictions video about Arya Stark on Grey Area's channel. And during that conversation, Secrets of the Citadel and I both agreed that we think Arya Stark will die in the very end of the story. Grey Area actually disagreed, and she's probably going to kill me for saying this again, but I'm very curious to see what all of you have to say about this, so I had to make a video about it and give my opinion as well. But let me preface this by saying, I hope I am wrong. I do not want Arya to die. But the foreshadowing in the very first novel, A Game of Thrones, cannot be dismissed. I think most people believe Arya Stark will survive the entire series or story simply because Arya is George R.R. Martin's wife's favorite character. Since Arya is her favorite character, people say that there is no way George R.R. Martin would kill Arya Stark because of that. But I don't think that is necessarily true. No character is safe in this story. And given that this is ultimately an anti-war story, most of, if not all of, the beloved characters very well could die in the end. I don't think all of them are going to die, but it is possible. Another reason why most people believe Arya Stark will survive is because of George R.R. Martin's original draft that he wrote back in 1993. If you have not read George R.R. Martin's original draft for A Song of Ice and Fire, you can watch that video I made about it, in which I read his entire draft and give my opinion on it. I will put that link down in the description. But in that original draft, George planned on having 5 characters survive the entire story. One of those characters was Arya Stark. Now I will admit, if this draft is really his that he wrote, then that is some very good evidence pointing towards Arya's survival. But a lot has changed since then. In fact, several different plots in this draft have changed. He originally only wanted to write 3 books, which now has turned into 7. And he also originally wanted Arya Stark to be in sort of a love triangle between Jon and Tyrion. Obviously that has changed, and I think her fate may have changed as well. In the very first season of Game of Thrones, you can see just how much Arya reminds Ned of his sister Lyanna. While Arya is training with Syrio, the camera pans to Ned's face, and he looks very troubled in this moment. It's obvious that this is reminding Ned of something from the past. This scene can be interpreted in many ways. One way to interpret this scene is that Arya is reminding Ned of his sister Lyanna. And to go even further than that, this may even be reminding Ned of the Tower of Joy. If you look at the way Arya is training, the way she gets stabbed by Syrio is identical to the way Arthur Dayne stabbed one of Ned's men. So perhaps this is giving Ned a flashback to the day he tried to save his sister. But like most things in this story and series, this scene could also have a double meaning to it. This could also be foreshadowing Arya's death. Arya may be killed exactly the same way Syrio stabbed her with the wooden sword. That could be another reason why Ned had that look of shock on his face, knowing that his family was in the midst of some very dangerous times, not only being in King's Landing surrounded by the enemy, but also because winter is coming. Ned even says to Arya, "You have a wildness in you, child, the wolf blood, my father used to call it. Lyanna had a touch of it, and my brother Brandon more than a touch. It brought them both to an early grave." Perhaps Arya may have the same outcome. Personally, it feels like the path Arya is taking won't have a happy ending for her, although I do want a happy ending for her. But the most foretelling piece of evidence about Arya's future can be found in one of the very first chapters in the Game of Thrones novel. This entire story is shrouded in mystery, but clues are left, and things are always foreshadowed way in advance that tells us exactly how things are going to end up taking place. When the Lannisters were in Winterfell, Robb and Joffrey were moments away from exchanging blows. And this is when Jon tells Arya, "You had best run back to your room, little sister. Septa Mordane will surely be lurking. The longer you hide, the sterner the penance. You'll be sewing all through winter. When the spring thaw comes, they'll find your body with the needle still locked tight between your frozen fingers." Now I think that's a very interesting thing Jon says to Arya. That can have so many different meanings. It sounds to me that Arya will be found dead, not with a sewing needle locked between her frozen fingers, but her sword needle that Jon actually gave to her, locked between her frozen fingers. How tragic would it be if John is actually the one to discover her body after the snow thaws? That would definitely add some bitterness to a potential bittersweet ending. But it could also mean something else. John says, "Go back to your room, little sister. The longer you hide, the sterner the penance." Perhaps this can be a reference to her becoming no one and hiding behind another person's face. The longer she is no one, the more sewing she will be doing all through winter. Only sewing with her sword needle means killing and descending into the darkness that path would lead her to. But this could mean that if she goes back to her room, meaning her home, that's where she can be safe. When the snow falls and the white winds blow, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. I think the more Arya goes down this dark path, the less likely it is for her to survive. I love seeing her get revenge for her and her family, but there is no way this ends happily. Maybe that's why a Stark always needs to be in Winterfell. That doesn't just have to mean one Stark must always be in Winterfell, but all the Starks must be there. Damn near every time a Stark leaves Winterfell, they end up dead. Lyanna, Ned, Catelyn, Robb, Brandon, Rickard, Benjen, sort of. Even Rickon, wandering to somewhere he thought was safe, ended up getting him killed, even though he ultimately made it back. But I do think if Arya dies, especially in the books, I believe she can warg into Nymeria and live out the rest of her life in spirit through Nymeria and the Wolfpack. But I wanted to keep this short, so let me end this right here. Please comment below and give me your opinion and prediction for Arya's endgame in Season 8. How do you see her story ending? I'm curious what the majority of you think. Also, let me give some shoutouts to everyone that has helped me in the channel by coming through big time over on Patreon. My computer actually crashed again, so it's getting harder and harder for me to produce quality videos, which is probably why the audio on this video sounds kind of shitty right now. But with the donations some of you gave me on Patreon, it will help me tremendously. That way I can get a new one. So thank you to Theon Defense Squad, Indie Sports Car Podcast, James Millar, Gene USMC, Nick Anella, Golden Girl, Jeanette, Cows Fukin Chickens, Marine, Carrie, Cypher, Sir Thomas, Schuler, Brand the Builder, Daron the Drunken, Travis McIntyre, Thomas Miller, Christopher, and Daughter of Ice and Fire. You guys are the real MVPs. I love you all. See you down in the comment section. Bye.